Feeling stuck on your one-person grind? You are not alone. This is Scale You, your weekly guide to growing your business like crazy. Every week, we're going to be inviting a lot of amazing entrepreneurs into the podcast to talk about productivity hacks, automation magic, and even AI advancements to help you future-proof your solopreneur journey. On Scale You, we guide you from being a solopreneur to becoming an unstoppable business owner. So ditch the struggle and scale you. Now, on this third episode, we're going to have a very special guest, our very first guest here at Scale You, because I definitely don't count during that first interview, and it's going to be Garik Tate. Now, Garrick has actually been a business partner of mine for like the last 10 years. I met him first when I was 18 years old, and he was about 19 at that point. And in the last 10 years, we've built different businesses together. He has his own business that he's focusing right now, as I do as well. He's also our Dungeons and Dragons master. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you will see every single week we have an ongoing D&D game. So I'm super excited to have him here on the podcast. Now, Garik is an AI futurist, investor, and an AI strategy consultant. His expertise lie in the intersection of AI, IQ, and EQ. He makes companies more valuable to institutional buyers and increases their profits with AI. With over a decade of experience as a successful entrepreneur, Garik has founded companies spanning from software development, outsourcing, and publishing. Notably, he has led and nurtured organizations to team size of 75 employees. Okay, so we are joined by our very, very first guest, a person I know so well, but hopefully I'll get to know a little bit more during this interview. Guys, please welcome Garik Tate. Hey, Garik.
Hello, Leanne.
Super excited to have you. Now,
my only goal today is to leave you more confused than when you get started. That's my one goal for today.
Who you actually are.
Yeah. I just want your listeners to know a lot more, for you to know a lot less. We'll see what we can do.
So, well, for context for everyone else, I've known Garrick basically for 10 years now. First met him when we were both 18. I'm now 28. He's 29 because he's a little bit older than me. But it's been a fun 10 years. But like I said, and your goal is to leave me confused, but I would love to see if there's anything else that I didn't know about you. So can you walk us through any top 3 or 5 highlights of your life so far that got you to where you are now?
Absolutely, yeah. So, so I'm going to interpret that highlights as like the things I'm most proud of. So some of the things I'm most proud of over the last 10 years of professional career is having a small or a big hand in starting a lot of businesses. So very first company ever had a hand in helping to found was our publishing company, which is now called Typewriter Publishing. And at this point, very, very proud of the team there that's running it. Hardly involved in the day-to-day operations at all. We have fantastic people running that. From that company, for a short while, was a mentor in a business school where we also did long-term mentorship of the alumni. And I was very, very proud of the companies that were started by our students. We had 3 businesses that were successfully launched from that, from really just a few classes of a dozen people, but very, very proud of the results of that. And for the last highlight, this might be a little bit of don't want you to be weeping uncontrollably, but I legitimately wrote down just how much you've grown and how much it was a long time ago. Remember when you first came into the family of companies, and just have been incredibly proud of your growth. And obviously I've only had a small part in that, but I'm incredibly proud of how much you've grown and how much you've accomplished. And so I think it's a major highlight to have been something of a mentor at certain important points in your life. And I'm just very, very proud of you.
Aw, thank you, Gare. Well, wasn't expecting that turn. Let me cry a little bit now. It has been kind of a cool kind of full circle moment. The fact that you are one of the first guests that we're having at Scale You, and it's also very cool. Kind of also saying
I'm setting the bar high. Like at this point,
right back at you. Yeah.
Yeah. I want all your other guests to just like be trembling in fear at the quality.
Right. It has to be. They have to be really good next time. So, on your path, like in the last 10 professional years, like how did you become an entrepreneur though? Like I know some parts of the story. Like I know 8-year-old Garrick, who was selling snacks at a baseball park.
Yeah, soccer. Yeah.
Okay, soccer.
I'm an American. Thank you very much.
Okay. But yeah, like tell me about that path, that journey, like the challenges you went through, and of course, like how you got on the flip side of it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a unique journey for me in the sense of I wouldn't say I am a born entrepreneur. Uh, I think that, you know, everyone has a large degree of control of their personality, but there are some traits that you inherit either by how you were raised or how or your genetics. And I would definitely say that I do not fit the typical archetype of an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs classically are very risk tolerant. They're also very, big into ideas, big picture people, very good at relationships, extroverted, and that is not how I would define myself. I like to think I have a pretty
Mhm.
broad range, but my default is pretty low risk. I like to tinker with things. I like to kind of iterate on a small set of ideas, and
Mhm.
so I think that if I was born in another family or another time and place, I probably wouldn't have been an entrepreneur uh, by default. Is how I would describe
Mhm.
myself. But I was very lucky to be born in an entrepreneurial family, and so growing up, there was definitely an assumption of like, well, of course it's better. Well, Garrick, of course it's better to start a company. Of course it's better to like to be your own
Mhm.
boss. Of course you want to be rich someday. And I never questioned it. And it was only like later in life, attending college, that I'm like, wait, there's other paths that people think about. But by then it was too late. I was bitten by the bug. Um,
Mhm.
and at this point, I think that range of not being a typical entrepreneur, but very much being exposed to that world gives me a pretty decent range to be able to accept risk, but also not accept too much. And I try
Mhm.
to be a good um, grounding for things while simultaneously knowing when you need to swing for the fences. So um, to blast the story kind of quickly, grew up in an entrepreneurial family. Um, I remember when I was 8 years old, selling snacks at the soccer teams. And then 13, 14, started my first online business. We were selling some information products, um,
Mhm.
all sorts of products. I remember one was selling blueprints for building chicken coops. We just found some
Ooh.
different micro niches, created SEO
Mhm.
content for it, and just went ham. Those were a lot of fun and learned a lot. Then in the Northwest, you're able to skip 2 years of high school to take 2 years of college. So I was able to do
Mhm.
that for my final 2 years of high school. Um, Graduated with an associate in college, and then proceeded to jump into the family business, which at that point, my brother and father were starting a publishing company. Um,
Mhm.
I believe, Leanne, you've heard of it. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, yeah. And most of our teams, we had hired all around the world, but our best people were all in the Philippines. And that was like our managers and people who led the teams. We
Mhm.
had some people in Scotland, some people in Japan, some people in. I don't think we ever hired from India though. I don't think
Yeah.
we've done that. We've now hired people in Sri Lanka, but
Mhm.
so our best people were in the Philippines, and so we moved out to the Philippines because we wanted to put on our big boy pants and like really go hard. Like, okay, we're gonna go there, and we're gonna lead the team, and we're going to really swing for the fences. And so met
Mhm.
the wonderful Leanne, who ended up becoming the CEO of that publishing company for a short while before
Who is she?
starting new businesses, and since then have started or had a hand in starting 3 separate businesses, and also mentored a few others. And it's all just been absolute smooth sailings, the most linear path since then. Yeah, of course, as we know.
Well, it's funny because like we keep saying, like in the last 10 years, like we literally started kind of on. You're kind of a year or two ahead of me, on the same path when I joined. Well, we lovingly call it Think and Thank. When I joined your guys' family, basically, I was kind of the same way of. I only knew one path, which for me was the opposite. Like, oh, this is, you have a
Yeah.
career, you do this, you work in a foreign country, and then you bring home the bacon, basically. And then you guys were the ones who taught me, like, oh, there's another path. You can pursue this other path. And in those last decade, it has been fun also kind of basically growing up alongside you of like it was my boyfriend said it best of like, yeah, you grew up Filipino for your childhood, but your 20s you grew up as American. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's such a good way to think of that. um and I found it interesting as well that you said that if you were born into another family, you don't think you'd be entrepreneurial. But to be honest, like I've seen you again and again, whenever you get stuck, which most people would halt and quit and like not do anything else, you have mastered kind of barreling through it, of like going through obstacles, going through, Obstacles the Way is your favorite book, one of your favorite books, I think. You've kind of learned that. So can you tell me more about that actually? 'Cause that's one thing about you that I've been curious about, like how have you mastered kind of thinking that the obstacle is the way? Because I think that's very entrepreneurial. That's very, this is the path that I want to get on, this is the change I want to see in the world. So yeah, can you tell me more about that, of like how you master that part?
Yeah, you mentioned the book "The Obstacle Is a Way" by Ryan Holiday, and that's top 3 books nonfiction of all time. I think that might be the book I've recommended and gifted either the most often or the second most. I think it's the second most book I've ever gifted. And I remember being bit by the bug of the way out is through at a very young age. I think everyone's heard that phrase, the way out is through. And there's just this concept baked into that of the way you escape from a bad place is you don't try to avoid it. You have to, there's this idea that if you strap 2 people into a roller coaster, but one signed up for a roller coaster and the other you strapped into the roller coaster, they are gonna both have an adrenaline rush. They're both gonna release high amounts of norepinephrine or adrenaline. They're both gonna release a high amount of cortisol, but one is gonna have a very nasty experience. And that neurochemically is from a couple of different factors. There's a lot of factors that go into that. Dopamine is probably the biggest. Also some nitric oxide, but fundamentally, if we strip away the neuroscience of it, it's that when you accept a challenging situation, when you face it and you let it into your nervous system and you absorb it into your nervous system to actually bear it, as opposed to like trying to like look away from it. When you take it in, the way your body engages with it is significantly healthier. Because if you measure their blood samples after the fact, the person who was under the higher amount of stress, like their nervous system is shot, their immune system is compromised, but the person who was there from a excited position, their immune system is actually boosted. It's a very different neurochemical situation. And so I think we all know this in our lives, but with the fact that our civilization has just, made life so fucking comfortable. Like you can survive. like you can survive.
Easier to survive, yeah. Yeah.
Not that it would be an easy survival, but you can manage it. I think that there's a lot of reasons for it. I don't want to be blaming any one thing. It's complicated, but I think that a lot of people can go through large parts of their lives without ever really realizing that the problems get smaller when you face them. And I just was bit by that bug very early on in my life, and would definitely recommend The Obstacle Is a Way and other Stoic writings if people want to be practicing that more in their life. Yeah. Got
it. I like that. I like the kind of a mix of being willing to fall because you're already there anyway. So then you can kind of still, even though you're kind of strapped on, you're kind of scared, just kind of making that switch of like, well, I'm here anyway. Let's do this. Let's get through it.
A surrender and acceptance. Yeah.
Exactly. So right now, with everything else that you've done so far, in your life, and I like teasing you about this, of like as you're going through your last year of your 20s, what's currently the value that you're trying to create in the role? What's something that's currently lighting you up? What's getting you going as you're going and picking your next few obstacles in life?
It's pretty fantastic being at this stage and looking back at the last 10 years and seeing what all the seeds planted and all the experience I've had has kind of been leading to this very moment. Always been very obsessed with AI. Our very first software project 6 years ago was fundamentally an AI project. We use machine learning to optimize advertising. Every project we did with a lot of our businesses, we built on the backs of cold outreach, our publishing company to get authors and different partnerships that we've gotten has been through cold outreach. And so this idea of reaching out to people, using data, using AI has put me in a position where I have a good skill set when it comes to building AI systems and also building relationship management systems. And so there's a lot of projects we're in right now, but maybe the one that I'm most excited by is we're building a lead generation system that uses AI in order to generate leads by reaching out to individuals that are filtered out and have their data enriched with AI, and then the outreach is then customized to see if they're actually a good fit, qualify them, and then proceed. And doing that at scale. That's probably one that is taking a lot of my time right now. That's very exciting. But there's a lot of other software projects we're doing right now that involve AI. But that's a big thread through all the projects we're doing.
Very cool. Because I imagine and I've been saying this also at the beginning, that this is going to be a very unique. It's our first one as the first guest because we do work. We have worked also together a lot. I can reference a lot of things, and I remember when we were doing the publishing company, we did a lot of those runs of just doing cold outreach. We were doing it manually, of like making sure that this author can actually launch their book to a list, that they were qualified, that they could do the things that we needed them to do. And I remember when we were doing kind of going through our archive of businesses when we were doing magazine also, and I think I asked for help for it a little bit. When I started to XU, to a point, we were doing a little bit of cold outreach, and there was a little bit of that frustration of like, is this person going to be a fit? Is this person going to be with us long term? So I think what you're creating with the do you have a I know you do, but like, what's the company name that you have so far for this business?
So far, we're calling this particular service ICO, AI Cold Outreach. The business that we're spinning out is yet to be announced. That will be offering this and a few other services.
Yeah. So for I can imagine for ICO that it can skip a lot of that headache of figuring out where can we find a list, who can we talk to who would be interested in what we're selling, and also who would be the person who could take action on what we're selling, because it's a whole minute filters that matter if you're trying to really get to your target audience. So that sounds really, really cool. I like that concept of a value you're creating is, one, you're not bothering people who doesn't need your service or the product anyway, and two, you're saving time for a lot of entrepreneurs who are also just trying to make it efficient and make it make sense for the people that they're reaching out to. So what would let's say you had to build a second Garrick. Let's say there's a Garrick 3D-4D maker somewhere. What would that look like to
I will
you?
pay
Like,
any price. If you were building that product right now, I will pay any price. I will do anything. I need about 4. I think 4 should do it. Yeah, that would be sick.
Okay, so what would those 4 Garricks be doing? What would their skill sets then? What would building that second brain look like for you?
So, I love the idea of building a second brain, and for the longest time, I built my second brain online. So, read David Allen's book, Getting Things Done. I think he talks about the concept of a second brain there, or if not, then that was a big concept that came out of his work. Tiago Forte talks, he coined that term, building your second brain, and it's been incredibly powerful to use my brain for thinking rather than remembering, to take my long-term memory and put them into assets, from Notion to mind maps to other tools where I can have long-term storage there and not have to remember everything, and not know where, not have to constantly ask myself, where do I access that? The big tools I use all the time is Notion and mind map software. Those are two tools that I really live inside. But something I was very resistant to for the longest time was getting someone else to actually help me run my life, because I was seeing that there were so many things I had to do that only I could do because I was the only one that knew the context window. Like, for somebody to do like a lot of these minute tasks, they would have had to know everything that I know, and that seemed very, very unreasonable. It seemed very unreasonable for someone to be in 20 hours of meetings and then keep track of all this stuff as well as I did. But was continuously told to get a second assistant. Like, no, that's what a personal assistant can do. That's what an executive assistant can do. And I was probably the slowest leader in our company to actually take up the service of 2XU. And I would say that sometimes it can take a couple rounds to get the right person, and I wasn't quite sure I was ready to go with that investment of finding the right person, maybe having to iterate through a few, and that is the reality of that engagement. And then it turned out I was very lucky, and I got like the best personal assistant in the world on the first try. So the second I was ready to, like, okay, I'll go through 2 or 3, like, we're gonna like really make this work. Which turned out is actually way more common than I thought. But you can't always bet on it. But the right person's out there, and now have an amazing personal assistant. And the biggest thing about it has been two sides. One is taking the leap for them to get access to my meeting. So the way that we set it up is we have a daily meeting where we review my to-do list, everything I need to accomplish. I try to offload everything that I possibly can to her from my to-do list. We look at all the meetings I have for that day, and then she reminds me of anything and automates anything. So if I need to order food in that day, or I'm going to have a certain meal time, or I need to set appointments or something, she handles all that by looking at my calendar. And that's our daily check-in. And then our second secret is that every recurring meeting that I have, if it's recurring, she's there. And that has given her the context of every single thing that has to happen. So then all of a sudden, all those micro tasks of, customize this invoice, or send this reminder, or forward this message to the right person, all of that just went away because she actually does know all the context. And that has been worth it. It has been worth that time investment.
Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting because, like, I remember that switch over for you. I think at that point 2XU was almost 2 years when you said, okay, let's do it. Let's find my EA. Yeah. I remember when we met your amazing EA, and your EA didn't even have experience in being an EA. Like, her background is an engineer, but it was because she had the background as an engineer that worked really well with the way that your brain works as well. And now you guys have like systems on systems. I've copied some of your systems, and that's not a full secret. But it's been amazing as well, kind of seeing not just
my IP. No, my IP, my precious IP. Yeah, no, yeah. I hope it's helping towards you.
There you go. Not just on the EA side though, but also like your Notion systems, your mind map systems. Like, I use you all the time as an example for our clients of, like, if there's really information that you don't want your EA to see or access to, you can just build it on another tool, which I usually use you an example of, like, for the really private stuff, you have your mind map, but the Notion is where everything else lives as well. So,
yeah, Notion is really good. I store some private data, and they have really good permission systems. Even the free version, you can handle everything you need there. So very, very easy.
True. We all definitely live and breathe Notion. So then, as we're kind of dissecting all of that and kind of asking my last favorite question of, with your systems and your assistant and your team that you're building, the company that you're building, what does make Garrick you though? Like if we, if you were Batman or Iron Man, if you strip away the armor and all of everything else, what's your sentence of what makes Garrick Garrick?
Working on it. I would say that the value I'm always trying to continue to give to the team is to be ridiculously obsessed with freeing up everything that you can possibly free up with automation or with having the right person do it. A fantastic piece of advice I was given by actually our coach, Dan McPherson, who's a fantastic executive coach, is that every single task should be done by the lowest possible person who can do it. And it's a very uncompromising position, but it's so powerful because it means there's two benefits to it. One is that you free up a lot of your time. And second is you really train up all your people to be as amazing as they possibly can be. So that means like that's a more dramatic way of saying delegation. But beyond that is automating everything. So I provide a high standard of excellence to automating and freeing things up as much as they possibly can be. And I have a very high standard and very high understanding of that comes through very quickly. But outside of that skill set, which is fed throughout the organization, I would say the thing that makes Garrick is the same as any leader, which is to create the heroic story that everyone is a part of. People are the heroes of their own life story, and so, but they don't always know what their story is. And some stories are tragedies, and tragedies have their happy moments, but they always end in tragedy. And so people don't always know what story they're living, but they kind of do. They know the dream they're dreaming throughout their lives. And so I try to tune in to what people are saying. I try to tune into what people are thinking. And to the degree that I succeed on it, I'm very focused on making sure that the team is saying the same story, that they have a place in that story. That place is a hero's place, and that we're going in the right direction. And don't always master it, but always working on that. And so what makes Garrick, or what I think is the essence of what I try to provide as a leader, is that.
That's awesome. I like that and I see that very beautifully. It's kind of like a tapestry. Like everyone's story is weaving in and out. But you have a place. You have a place in part of the story of the tragedy that we know is going to happen because life is life. But we have this hero journey of where we want to be and what we're trying to create as well. So that's beautifully said, Gary. Thank you. I'll keep thinking of that even after this call because that's actually really well said. And I like the point as well on the delegation and automation. But honestly, a lot of that is learning how to weave not just yourself with tools and systems, but also weaving other people. Like I said, that was kind of the imagery that came into my head when you're describing that, is that tapestry that it all kind of comes together. So amazing. Well, thank you so much, Garrick, for again being the very first guest of the Scale You podcast. It has been amazing, and I did learn a little bit of confusion, maybe, of who you are. Still learn something new about you. To wrap it up, gonna look into the camera of where should people find you, what's exciting thing that you're working on that people can dive into, which we'll put into the show notes below.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I have been on quite a few podcasts, and I think that it's been really, really enjoyable to do one with you. So I'm super glad that we did this, and this has been good. So for me, for your audience, I would say if you're looking for a partner to add AI systems into your business or to help your business with its cold outreach and automating things, then feel free to just hit me up on LinkedIn. And if you're looking to help to build an AI product or an AI system from scratch, you can check out my company, Valhalla.team, and that should be in the show notes below.
Amazing. Well, Well, yeah. Thank you so much, Garrick, and I'll be seeing you in our next Dungeons and Dragons game.
Absolutely. We didn't have a chance to talk about that.
Right? For another episode for the future.
It's set up. It's done.
Now, thank you again for watching until the end of this video. I will be putting all of Garrick's links below that you guys can check out. And of course, I would always appreciate it if you guys went ahead and hit the like button right there if you guys enjoyed this video. Comment below for any questions you might have for Garrick for maybe an additional episode like we talked about. Or if you guys have guests that you want to have us invite onto this podcast. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button where you're watching, whether you're on YouTube, where you're Spotify, everywhere else. Check out all of the past and make sure to share this on your favorite platform. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. And remember that small steps matters. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!